Everything that exists in your world began first in the invisible realm of imagination. Before wealth can appear in your physical experience, it must first be cultivated as a mental reality. The mind is not merely a place for thoughts. It is the workshop of creation, the true origin of all things seen. When you imagine yourself already living a life of abundance, luxury, and freedom, you plant a seed that, when nurtured with belief and repetition, inevitably grows into physical manifestation. This inner world is not fantasy. It is the blueprint of your outer world. Most people look to their current circumstances as evidence of what is possible, never realizing that they are reinforcing the very limitations they want to break free from. But imagination breaks the chains of circumstance. It lifts you out of your current financial condition and lets you experience a richer life now, within. When you imagine vividly and consistently, with emotion and clarity, you activate unseen forces that begin to shape events, people, and opportunities in your favor. To imagine wealth is not to wish for it, it is to claim it. You are not begging the universe, you are assuming your rightful place in it. As you persist in the inner vision of financial freedom, the energy of that vision starts to magnetize real-world results. Suddenly, you meet the right person, get the unexpected idea, or find yourself in the perfect moment to act. These are not coincidences. They are echoes of your imagination materializing. The mind must be trained to dwell in the end result, not in the process or the obstacles. The moment you see yourself not as someone struggling toward wealth, but as someone who already lives in abundance, your inner world begins to generate a new frequency. That frequency speaks louder than action alone. Your imagination becomes the engine of your transformation, and wealth becomes not something you chase, but something you allow, because you already hold it in consciousness. Your only job is to return again and again to the inner image. Let it be so real that the outer world feels temporary in comparison. The more vivid, sensory, and emotional your inner wealth becomes, the faster it will crystallize into form. Imagination is not a daydream. It is the cause. Everything else is effect. To bring anything into your life, you must feel the reality of it now, not tomorrow, not someday, but in this present moment. Desire alone is not enough. Longing for a better life only keeps it distant, suspended in a future that never arrives. But when you feel the state of already having what you desire, you collapse time and draw that reality into the present. Feeling is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between thought and manifestation. This process isn't about faking it or pretending. It's about stepping into the version of yourself who already lives the life you want and allowing that emotional frequency to saturate your being. You don't need to force anything or beg the universe for help. Instead, you align with your desire by becoming the person who naturally experiences it. If you want to be wealthy, feel the calm confidence of already being wealthy. Walk as that version of yourself. Think, speak, and carry yourself as though the manifestation is already done. The outer world responds not to what you want, but to who you are being. Your feelings are the energetic signature you send out every moment, and they act like a magnet, attracting experiences that match their tone. When you feel rich, abundant, successful, even in the absence of external proof, you signal to life that you are ready. And life reflects back to you the state you have chosen to embody. You're not reacting to the world, you're instructing it. Feeling it real is a commitment to inner truth over outer appearances. You may not yet see the money in your bank account, but if you can feel the joy, the relief, the power, the gratitude of already having it, then it's already yours in the unseen. This inner state of knowing begins to crystallize into form through a series of perfectly aligned events. The shift is subtle but powerful. You begin to think differently, take inspired action, and notice opportunities that were once invisible. Everything changes when you no longer look at your desire as something distant, but something you've already received in your heart. And once that emotional signature becomes stable, reality must conform, because reality is always following feeling. Living from the end means embodying the version of yourself who already has what you desire. Not hoping or waiting, but knowing and being. It's not about wishing things were different. It's about stepping into the reality where they already are. You don't think about the millionaire life as something that's coming. You think from it, as if it's already here. The difference is subtle but transformative. Thinking of your desire keeps it separate. Thinking from it fuses you with it. When you live from the end, you move through the world as if the outcome is inevitable. Your actions, words, thoughts, and emotions all align with the state of fulfillment. You no longer ask, will it happen, because you've already accepted it as done within yourself. Doubt loses its power because it no longer fits the story you're living. The questions shift from, how will I get there, to what would I be doing now, knowing I'm already there. That shift in identity is what bends reality. You don't need to know every step ahead. The version of you who has already arrived carries a different frequency, and that frequency draws in ideas, people, and situations that belong to that version. It's not magic, it's alignment. Reality begins to organize itself around the assumptions you hold as true. If you carry the end as a present reality in your imagination and emotions, the path will reveal itself with perfect timing. Even when nothing around you seems to match what you're imagining, you remain faithful to the end. You don't adjust your vision to match your current circumstances. You hold the vision so your circumstances can adjust to match it. Living from the end requires a level of inner conviction that doesn't waver when the external world lags behind. You don't need proof to believe. You believe, and then the proof appears. Living from the end isn't about pretending. It's about recognizing that your inner state defines your experience. You become the cause, not the effect. You're not waiting for success to show up before you feel successful. You are success now. You are abundance now. You are living in the answer now. The moment you take ownership of the end result internally, everything else must follow. Because the outer world is just a reflection of your inner decision. The words you speak to yourself in silence, moment by moment, are not just idle thoughts. They are commands to your subconscious mind, blueprints for your future, and silent agreements with reality. Most people think their financial situation is shaped by luck, circumstances, or hard work alone. But beneath all of that is the silent conversation happening within. Your inner dialogue creates the tone of your life, and your bank account is one of the most direct reflections of that tone. If you constantly think, I never have enough, or money is hard to come by, you are not just expressing frustration. You are affirming a reality that your subconscious accepts as true. And once it accepts something as true, it must seek to confirm it, drawing in situations, delays, and limitations that reinforce that inner belief. Even if opportunities arrive, that same inner conversation can sabotage them, dismiss them, or fail to recognize them. But when you change your self-talk to match the reality you want, not the one you currently see, you begin to create new financial experiences. Saying to yourself, I am abundant, or wealth flows to me naturally, may feel strange at first, especially if your outer world contradicts it. Yet it is in those moments that these inner statements carry the most power. You are not just repeating empty words, you are rewriting your inner identity, and your bank account will catch up to that change. Money doesn't respond to need, it responds to belief. And belief is shaped by repetition. Your inner conversation is always active, whether you're aware of it or not. It speaks when you look at a bill, when you think about your job, when you wonder if something is affordable. Each thought is like a drop of water filling the cup of your financial reality. Over time, these thoughts form a dominant pattern, and that pattern becomes your experience. If you want to change what shows up in your bank account, you must first change what echoes in your mind. Speak to yourself as someone who is already financially secure, generous, prosperous, and free. That version of you exists, and you bring it closer every time you think and feel like it's already true. Your inner world writes the script, and your outer world simply acts it out. What you see around you right now is not the final truth. It's just a reflection of your past beliefs, past assumptions, and past feelings. Circumstances are like shadows. They follow old thoughts. If you try to create a new reality while being emotionally bound to what currently is, you stay stuck in a loop. Real transformation begins when you stop giving your current conditions the authority to define what's possible for you. They are not the cause, they are the effect. Most people get trapped because they keep reacting to what they see. They check the bank balance and feel fear. They hear no and feel defeated. They experience a delay and start to doubt. But all of that is simply feedback from previous states of consciousness. When you understand that, you stop negotiating with the present moment, and you start creating from a higher awareness. You realize that the outer world is just the echo, not the source. Ignoring the present circumstances doesn't mean pretending they don't exist. It means no longer accepting them as your only reality. You observe them, but you don't worship them. You don't allow them to dictate how you feel or how you move. Instead, you stay loyal to the unseen reality you've chosen within. The world will test your commitment by showing you evidence that nothing is changing. But that's when your inner conviction must grow stronger. You begin to live from a different script, one that your senses may not yet confirm, but your spirit knows to be true. You carry the feeling of the wish fulfilled, even when there's no sign of progress. You speak abundance while the numbers say otherwise. You embody peace while the outside world feels chaotic. And eventually, the outer has no choice but to align with the inner. When you no longer allow the present to hypnotize you, you reclaim your creative power. You're no longer reacting, you're initiating. You understand that everything you see is temporary, but what you feel and believe consistently is permanent until you change it. And so, the focus shifts from trying to fix the world outside to mastering the world within, because that's where the real power is. Persistence is not force, it is faith sustained over time. It is the quiet, unwavering decision to return to your vision again and again, no matter what appears in front of you. Most people imagine something better, feel good for a moment, and then allow doubt, delay, or disappointment to pull them back into their old state. But reality doesn't shift from a single thought or a fleeting moment of belief. It transforms through persistent inner alignment. When you persist in imagining your desire is already fulfilled, you begin to reprogram your subconscious mind. The subconscious doesn't respond to effort. It responds to repetition and emotional conviction. Every time you return to your inner image of wealth, freedom, and success, especially when the outside world contradicts it, you strengthen your inner reality. And that inner reality, once dominant, begins to override the old patterns that created your current condition. Persistence is the refusal to be hypnotized by what is. It's the discipline to keep assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled until it becomes more real to you than the facts in front of you. This is not about pretending. It's about choosing where your attention and emotional energy go. Every time you revisit the desired state, you deepen the groove in your consciousness, and over time the external world bends to match the new rhythm. Obstacles, delays, and setbacks are not signs that you're failing. They're part of the dissolving process, evidence that the old reality is losing its grip. Many give up right before the shift occurs because they mistake resistance for finality. But when you understand the creative process, you realize that persistence is the bridge. You don't need to know when or how the change will happen. You only need to remain in the feeling that it already has. You persist not because you're chasing something, but because you've already claimed it within. This commitment to your inner vision transforms you. Your thoughts begin to reflect the new reality. Your habits, decisions, and conversations shift without effort, and eventually your external world begins to echo what you've been faithfully holding inside. Repetition becomes transformation, and what once felt like imagination becomes your actual life. The moment you assume something to be true, genuinely, emotionally, and without resistance, you set the wheels of creation into motion. Assumption is not a passive hope or a weak expectation. It is a conscious decision to adopt a state of being as if it were already real, regardless of evidence. When you assume wealth, success, or fulfillment, you are not wishing for it, you are claiming it as your current identity. And identity always manifests itself. Creation doesn't wait for conditions to be perfect. It responds to the inner state you consistently dwell in. When you assume something, you become it in consciousness. And because your external world is a mirror, it must reflect that inner shift back to you. People often say, "I'll believe it when I see it." But the truth is, you'll see it when you believe it, when you assume it as already yours. This principle works both ways. If you assume lack, struggle, or delay, even subtly, you reinforce those experiences. The world doesn't discriminate. It reflects your dominant assumptions, whether you're conscious of them or not. That's why awareness is everything. You must become the gatekeeper of your thoughts and emotions, choosing only those assumptions that support the life you desire to live. Assuming is not about forcing outcomes. It's about aligning your mind and feelings with the end result. It's quiet confidence. It's a state of knowing that doesn't need proof. The assumption becomes so natural to you that you stop looking for signs, because the inner conviction itself is the sign. You no longer wonder if it's happening. You move as though it already has. Once you assume a new identity, everything begins to shift in support of it. Your behavior changes, your decisions evolve, new ideas come to you, and people respond to you differently. Reality bends around your new frequency. What once seemed distant or impossible begins to unfold effortlessly, not because you chased it, but because you became the person who naturally receives it. Assumption creates momentum, and momentum builds reality. Each time you return to the assumed state, you reinforce the foundation of your new world. You don't wait for life to show you a different reflection before you change the belief. You change the belief, and life can't help but reflect it. Becoming a millionaire begins long before the money arrives. It starts in the mind, in the way you see yourself, in how you think, feel, and respond to life. Wealth is not first a number. It is a state of being. The millionaire mind is not about chasing money, but about embodying the qualities that naturally attract it. Astonishingly enough, when you live from a consciousness of abundance, confidence, purpose, and generosity, you align yourself with the frequency of wealth, and money becomes a byproduct of who you are, not the goal itself. People often try to change their outer world without shifting their inner state. They try new strategies, work harder, hustle more, all while still identifying with lack, fear, or scarcity. But no action can outpace the belief system it's coming from. If you see yourself as someone who always struggles, who never gets ahead, or who isn't meant for success, then no amount of effort will lead to lasting wealth. But the moment you adopt the identity of someone who is already successful, resourceful, and deserving, your world begins to reflect that inner conviction. The millionaire state of being is calm, clear, and deliberate. It doesn't panic at bills, nor chase after money with desperation. It knows that wealth is drawn to order, certainty, and value. When you assume this mindset, you begin to think differently. You value your time more. You speak with clarity. You invest in yourself. You make decisions from the perspective of abundance, not survival. And that shift changes everything. This inner state also carries a different emotional signature. Gratitude, confidence, decisiveness, generosity. These aren't just traits of wealthy people. They are the emotional building blocks of wealth itself. When you cultivate these feelings daily, you become a magnet to the very experiences that reinforce them. Life mirrors your dominant energy, and when your energy says, "I already am," then the world responds with, "Here it is." The outer world is always catching up to who you're being internally. The bank account, the business, the opportunities, they are effects, not causes. When you focus on being the version of yourself who already lives in overflow, everything outside of you reorganizes to reflect that truth. That's why wealth isn't earned, it's allowed. And it's allowed when you no longer question your worthiness to receive. You simply live as the one who already has it, and the rest takes care of itself. You are not waiting to become a millionaire. You are remembering that the power to be one has always lived within you. The wealth you seek is not out there somewhere. It begins in your thoughts, in your feelings, and in your unwavering assumptions. When you imagine vividly, feel it as real, now, live from the end, and persist regardless of circumstances, you are not just wishing for success, you are commanding it. Your inner conversation is building the future version of you that already exists. Every moment you choose faith over fear, vision over doubt, and identity over effort. You step deeper into the millionaire phase, not as a distant dream, but as your present reality. This isn't about chasing money. It's about becoming the person who naturally attracts it. The outer world must mirror the inner world, and once you assume the state of abundance as your truth, life has no choice but to reflect it. You're not becoming rich, you're awakening to the truth that you already are. The millionaire mind is not a goal, it is a state of being, and you are living in it now.